Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Nova Alumni Talks. Today with me, I have Elena Gagovska, a writer who finished at Bard College, Berlin, and famously, my cousin. Do you have anything to add, Elena?
Hi, Galena. Thanks for having me here and for preparing some questions for me.
Anything to add about yourself to tell our viewers at home?
Yeah, the viewers at home, I finished at Nova in 2015, I think. And after that, I went to Bard College Berlin, where I did a BA in literature and rhetoric, but like technically my diploma says the humanities, the arts and social thought. So it's like very classic liberal arts college. My grandparents don't understand what I studied. And after finishing at Bard, which was a cool experience in general, I signed up for a master's program at a German university in Berlin called Freie Universität. And but I'm currently back during the because of the pandemic, and my classes are online, and quite possibly I will be taking a semester off and staying in Macedonia for a while, and working here as a journalist and writer.
But about that later. So firstly, we're going to talk about your overall experience with Nova, and also, to start off on a positive note, to tell us your fondest memory of the place and how you remember it.
How I remember Nova. I think it was probably the first place where I don't think I loved studying in middle school. I think I did it, but I think, not to say that like I loved all of the studying, but I do think that it made me find things that I liked, which I really appreciated. I think it was fun that like the library was a social place. I don't know how it is now. Well, I guess now it's empty, but before the pandemic. And I think probably my fondest memories are from like Bella's classes in AP Lang and AP Lit. Probably more AP Lit because it was my senior year and we were like 8 people discussing books together, and that was just like a nice intimate experience. I think those are still probably some of the best literature classes I had, even though I've been studying literature in both my BA and my MA.
Also for reference, this is approximately, how many years ago? This was approximately 6 years ago, when our principal, Ms. Bella, was still a professor. So since you mentioned your AP classes, did you go IB or AP? Did you have a specific, designation for your last 2 years?
Yeah, so I took my first AP class in 10th grade, actually. It was AP Human Geography, and then I did mostly AP classes in my 3rd and 4th year, but I also had IB Art and I had IB Macedonian.
Okay. So how would you describe those years? I guess 3 years since you started in 10th grade?
I mean, honestly, the first word that comes to mind is extremely stressful. I might even like say that my senior year in high school was possibly one of the worst years of my life because it was just extremely stressful. And something that I wanted to say in this talk in general was that I don't think it was worth it to take so many APs, and I don't think it was worth it to have so much stress in my life. And if you're going to take away anything from this talk, I think is that like, yes, take your education seriously, but don't do it at the detriment of your health and your mental health.
Of course. So that would be your tip. That would be your overall.
My tip is take less
overarching tip.
Because it matters, but at the end of the day, I don't think that it matters that much in the admission process. Like, of course, if you're like aiming to get into like the Ivy Leagues or something, but like the chances that you would get into the Ivy Leagues are extremely small because of like how competitive they are, and also I mean, realistically also like rich people get in much more easily, and like for international students it's even harder. And so you shouldn't think about like where you're gonna end up in college as like the biggest thing that defines your life, because of course it will define your life in lots of ways, or at least define those 4 years. But you can get a great education in so many places that are not those like top 10, 20 schools, and still have a great time. And if you don't go to your like first choice, or if you go to your safety, that's totally fine. And like it does not define your self-worth. What and you can just get a good education if you make that for yourself. And like I think also with small schools, I can talk about BARD, or if you want, you can ask a question specifically about BARD, and I can talk about how that education, I think, was actually really great in a way that I didn't expect.
So our biggest takeaway from what you've just said is that, and the tip you'd like to tell other students currently know, is that aiming for Ivy League isn't realistic and it's not really that important. And now, while we're on the subject of your after high school experiences, how would you describe, what did you do at BARD? How would you describe your college experience overall? What classes did you take? How did it feel?
Yeah, my college experience, I think overall was pretty cool. And but I will say that my first year was not good. And like moving to a whole different country at the age of 18 was like extremely overwhelming. And it's just like I didn't make that many friends my first year. And I think like if you if you end up having trouble in your first year, that's I think normal, and lots of people have that. And things just got better for me at least. And it was just like a school that I didn't know, like I thought that I was going to go to the US, or like that was my goal before, but the Bard College Berlin was the only place that I got financial aid at. And sometimes you have to make that choice of just choosing the place that you can actually afford. And it was a really small school, and especially when I went, I think my first year we only had like 150 students overall in the whole school or something like that. Now it's bigger. I think it's like 300 maybe. But and I think this made me skeptical at the beginning also, because it wasn't what I imagined my college experience would be like. But it ended up being like pretty great in a lot of ways, because it had like such an international community. And I think it's like so unique that most places just don't have that much of an international community, as I mentioned, because international students don't get priority really at U.S. schools. There are a certain number of people that will get accepted, so still like most of the students there would probably be like Americans if you end up going to the U.S. Whereas BARD, we had people from like 50 different countries or something like that in a student body of only a few hundred people. But about my classes, I'd say I had really small classes, which is very nice. And I think you know your professors very well. And everything was very discussion based. So I think the skill that I've learned from BARD, or like the two skills that I feel like I can take away are, okay, maybe 30, whatever. But I would say like critical thinking, which is something that definitely I feel like was developed there, but also outside of it. And I think you can definitely develop critical thinking by talking to your friends and like discussing intellectual topics with them, or just like meeting new people. Also, I learned how to write at BARD, I would say, because most of I haven't taken an exam in years. It was just essays, and except for like German class. So I think it really forces you to learn how to express yourself. And I also had some creative writing workshops, which was nice. And I think thirdly, something my professor James Harker, who's a literature professor, used to say is that people from BARD really know how to talk in class, and you really learn this skill that it is actually a valuable skill, because I think most people are not forced to like express themselves clearly in a classroom setting. Like I think you if it's a huge class, you can probably be quiet for most of your education, but that wasn't the case at BARD. And I think everyone really learned how to talk, which is something that I really appreciate, that you can just like take that in a professional setting, or you can be like an entertaining person to your friends, both of which are very valuable.
You mentioned leaving at 18, and of course it was a big thing. You were the first cousin of the family to leave, to get an education. And you did mention that you were quite young and that your first year was a bit hard on you. So how would you comment on that? Would you say that a gap year was needed? Would you prefer that you left later in life? Do you regret leaving that early?
I think I do regret leaving like at age 18. I honestly think that even leaving at age 19 would have made a difference. Because as I said, like my senior year in Nova was really not good, and it was very stressful because I had like 3 or 4 AP subjects, and the IB subjects that I was finishing, and I was applying to colleges, and it was just like a year filled with anxiety, not just for me, I would say collectively for everyone in my year. I can't speak to how the atmosphere is now, but I think there's all of this like pressure to succeed and pressure to have some kind of linear path in life, that you finish high school, that immediately you go to college, that immediately either you get a job or you go to a master's or like whatever. And I think now, especially with the pandemic, like all of that linear trajectory like finally got to me, that I feel like I completely need a break now, and I will be taking a semester break from my master's, and I wish I also took it earlier, and I wish that that would be more normal, that people would take a break when they feel like they need it. And if you need an extra semester after high school to just do nothing or like, I don't know, work a random job or volunteer or like learn a language or whatever you want instead of going to college immediately, that should be okay. And I wish someone told me that when I was 18, because just as I was finishing high school, like only a few months later, I had to leave for Berlin. It was like, I just don't think I was like very ready for it, to be honest. And like, I I don't regret getting my education where I did it, because I think like Berlin is an amazing city. It's as a huge international community, it has like just so many things you can do, and I think that almost anyone can find themselves in that city. And like maybe one day I'll go back, I don't know, but I definitely would encourage people to listen to themselves, or like to ask themselves like, am I pushing myself too much? Do I need a break? And if they do, just to take that break, and that there is no shame in that.
Well, I personally think I agree with you completely, because even in the curriculum and how tests and materials are passed over, sort of, there really is no space for break, except, and even during breaks, we have a spring break coming up next week. Even during breaks, we do have work, and we have we have a lot to cover even during breaks. So I believe that uh, I completely agree with all you said, because stress can get out of control, and I just wanted to hear how you coped, in high school, how you coped with the amount of work you had, and how you managed your stress, and if you had any tips.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think I didn't manage my stress. Like I think it would be a lie to tell people like, oh, if you just like do a skin mask, or like if you exercise or whatever, you'll be able to do it. Like it's just like, I don't think any amount of self-care in the world can give you like the kind of like stress management that like people in like especially international schools like Nova need. What I said at the beginning, I think people should not pressure themselves to take like a million AP classes. Like by the end of my senior year, I had done 8 AP classes. I know people who did more than that. There was this one girl, I think she was a year below me, who did like 2 AP subjects in 10th grade, if I'm not mistaken. And then she did the whole IB program, plus she did like an extra AP, like in one of those years or something like that. But either way, like she did end up going to a great college. I think it was possibly Oxford. But but was that worth it? Like I don't know. I can't speak for her, but I think that I would have been able to get into Bard with or without like 8 APs. Like I think if I had just done 4 APs, that also would have been fine, and they would have accepted me. And like maybe like I don't think it would have been a realistic dream for me to want to go to an Ivy League with the classes that I did have. But it's also like you have to remember that the system is not like it is a rigged system. It does still like favor rich people or white people or like Americans. And like I recommend people watching. I watched a documentary recently. It's called Operation Varsity Blues, which is like you might remember the like college admission scandal where like Felicity Huffman got her daughter or son into one of the UC schools by like bribing basically, and this happens all the time. And sometimes, and I think people need to like I wish I knew this when I was applying to schools, because it's like it's not exactly entirely fair, and it's not exactly a meritocracy. And I feel like I felt really bad that I didn't get accepted to as many colleges as I wanted to get accepted into, but I don't feel that bad about it anymore. I think it's totally fine, and people should just like not be so hard on themselves.
How would you describe your career now, and why did you choose writing? Why did you choose to pursue such a profession?
Well, I don't know if I would call it a career at 24 years old, but that's flattering. I basically, the way that I got here was not very expected. Like when I was applying to colleges in high school, I thought I wanted to do film, which I'm glad I didn't end up doing that. Like Bard was also not it was a bit of a random place to apply to, but I'm so glad I did, because I think it was totally the right school for me. And the way that writing began for me was in my second year of college, when I applied for a blog job in a Bard. And it was like kind of a funny process, because the semester before that I had taken a writing workshop, and one of the samples that I submitted was a story that I wrote for this workshop. And I think I submitted like a political science essay. And then in my motivation letter, I said, I think the blog is not doing any political topics, and I would like to change that. And it was kind of like, oh, I just don't think that it's doing very well now, and I can do it better. And then I got the job, which was not super expected, but I really like found myself with this job. And it might sound a little silly to be like, oh, like my like career path was defined by this college blog, but a little bit. And I continued writing, and then like I also became an editor later. And I was saying to my friend Claire, who worked with me in the blog at the blog, like a few weeks ago, I was like, for how little we knew about what we were doing about running a publication, we did a really good job. And from there, I just started applying to like different places, or like sending pitches, different publications. And then like I think a year writing for the blog or something like that, Kalia Dimitrova from Medusa contacted me when they were starting Medusa, because she had read my writing, or I think maybe it was like someone had sent her my writing. And then that's how I started getting more involved with feminist writing. And now I will also be doing like some journalistic work here for Nova TV, starting like next week. And I think it's just like a kind of like series of events that it's not like, as I was saying, like nothing is like super linear as it looks on a CV. It's kind of like things happen, and then certain opportunities may come your way, or you might realize like, oh, I'm actually good at this, or I'm good at that. Let's try more of this. And I think that's how it came to it for me with the writing. But I think it's also like I've I started writing because I cared about what was happening in the world, and I wanted to be politically engaged, and I wanted there to be a publication on campus that was politically engaged, and there wasn't one, and I basically made the existing one be a more politically engaged publication. So I don't know if I can like extrapolate a message from that, but but definitely look into how you can get politically involved wherever you are, and just, I guess, try to make the world a better place as much as you can.
So Elena, thank you so much for taking part in this. I hope that our current students do watch this and they do realize that although, you know, a college and university education is important, it's not a defining factor in your life, and nobody expects us to know what path we will take in life at, at such an early adolescent age. And I really do hope that people realize that and stop putting such stress and pressure on themselves. Thank you for this very helpful insight, and yeah, thank you for watching, whoever is at home that's watching right now.